here's how you should introduce a character. Notice how simple yet engaging that intro is. We're going to break down what Ted Lasso does to tell stories and develop characters so you can do it too. We're also going to look at things like camera angles and plot devices that help build characters on top of each other. Let's go. Use a lower camera angle to put your target in a position of power. Use a bird's eye angle to show weakness. We have multiple other characters whose plots play out. Warning, there will be spoilers. Every good movie needs at least 4 common themes: a strong character to root for, a smart character, a punching bag, and an antagonist. We also have a host of characters whose plots play out throughout the film. Let's go through the cast and then explain why this matters with storytelling techniques. Ted, main protagonist. He has many flaws, but he doesn't hide them. He's a real person in a tough situation. Rebecca, a strong woman who has internal challenges to overcome throughout the show. Roy, a strong personality with a proven track record, but he has lessons to learn. Jamie, a prick who you don't want to succeed, but becomes hard to dislike when he goes through his own hero's journey. Nate, a young man who you initially root for, but lessons get to their head and he begins to change. Leslie, punching bag for comedic relief with a few bright moments. Keely, a woman of wisdom, drama, and adds extra dimension to characters. And then we have a host of secondary and third characters who rotate throughout the film, and these are very important. The reason that films use secondary and third characters is because they can have them come in and be a big part of just one episode. And in this episode, they get to pilot a lot of things. If the character's great, they'll stick. If they're bad, then they can kick them out and not have to worry about it. And this is important because it gives them lots of testing ground and it gives them a chance to give main characters new conflict and new things to think about without ruining the core plot of the show. This leads us to an important part of storytelling. You need to make sure that people understand every single character, because if they know why they do what they do, then they can empathize and get behind them. Your goal as a storyteller isn't to say exactly how people should think, but rather give them information so that they can make a decision. Here's a great example. From Ted's eyes, Rebecca could be an antagonist for sabotaging the club. From Rebecca's perspective, her actions are justified due to her abusive ex-husband. This open-ended storyline keeps you engaged because you always want to see another piece of the puzzle unfold. Here's a great example of a secondary character. Trent Krim is a journalist, and he's a side character for the majority of the first 2 seasons. Just in the 3rd episode, he plays a big role when Rebecca tasks him to follow around Ted for a day to write an article, and the goal is that it'll be very poor, and the public's going to receive it negatively, and Ted will lose his job, the club will fail. What we saw happen, and this is a spoiler, is Trent became a much more active character in Season 3 when it found out his dynamic worked very well with the team. Most successful TV franchises use this model. By having a rotating cast of second or third characters, every episode gets new conflict and drama that is brought up naturally. This also gives them a chance to test out characters without breaking viewers' expectations. A great example of these characters are Samwise, Pip, and Merry. In Lord of the Rings, they played a big role, but they weren't the centerpiece, and if they were filming and they had a need to leave, or to be more involved, they could make that change based on the development of the story. Coincidentally, by building in these characters in your story, it not only gives it more depth, but it gives more opportunities for somebody to connect with that character. In The Lord of the Rings, Legolas wasn't the absolute centerpiece, but he became a favorite character and was able to be incorporated more because people liked him, and his vibe worked really well with the plot. Let's look at comedic relief. Certain characters are simply there to give other characters a reason to punch down so they can make jokes. In this scene, Ted, Keely, and Rebecca just had a hard conversation, and then Rebecca and Leslie go back and forth, with Leslie being a punching bag to exit out of this hard dramatic scene with some light-hearted humor. Another great way that we can use exposition to tell stories. In this example, Trent Krim is meeting with Ted, and they're at an Indian restaurant, and a deep conversation is taking place, but to make this conversation easier to swallow for most people, they mix exposition with something entertaining. In this case, it's an Indian restaurant where they serve extremely hot food, and they're trying to have this deep conversation while also consuming the food and not making the owner feel bad. This is known as humorous exposition, mixing something funny with something serious so you can tell an important part of the story while keeping people engaged. Next, silence matters. In this scene, Ted said something. Rebecca wanted to respond, and she almost did, but she stopped herself, and this gives you as the viewer a lot of tension, because naturally when we hear silence, we want to fill it with something. Check out this example, edited with silence and without it, to see the difference.
Feel so bad for the cows, but you gotta do it, otherwise they get lost. That was a branding joke.
Here's the scene with the silence edited out.
Feel so bad for the cows, but you gotta do it, otherwise they get lost. That was a branding joke.
So many people want to hyper edit their videos and not give their viewers a chance to just breathe. And look at the difference there. Take a moment and let people breathe. We're human, we can deal with a second of silence, and if you tell a good enough story, they're gonna stay engaged. Let's look at another clip, Show, Don't Tell. In this scene, Roy is noticing that Jamie is making fun of Nate, and he asks Ted if he's gonna do anything about it. Ted says no, but his plan is Roy's the captain, is gonna step in and make it happen. Then it cuts to a scene where Roy is talking with Jamie in the gym, telling him, cut it out with Nate. This is a huge character development moment because it shows Ted is giving leadership to his team and they're owning up to it. They don't need to stop and tell you Roy is doing good at leadership. They show you, and you as the viewer can infer what it means to you. Remember that people relate to characters because they're real people. They're not perfect. And if you tell them exactly how to feel about each character, it's going to have no emotional connection with anybody and it's not going to stick. You need to let people decide what that character means to them, and it's going to be totally different, but that's okay. Another storytelling technique is to leave little plots throughout the TV series so that it builds on each other. In this scene, Ted and Keely find out that a secret photo was taken that was going to be used as blackmail to make Ted and the whole team look bad. Notice how they didn't just pick anything, they picked something that's going to build Keely's and Ted's relationship. They get to work together and bring in Rebecca so they can stop this from being posted, and it gives them a chance to not only resolve a part of the plot, but grow closer in as characters. So many people want to use engaging parts of a plot just to try to make it interesting, but it doesn't lead to any conclusion. It's just, oh, this problem came up, and then we solved it, and we're done. But that doesn't give you any lasting relationship or meaning with those characters, and they don't develop. So when you use those anecdotes, you need to make sure that it builds towards a greater purpose. In this case, helping Keely and Ted work together and showing Rebecca that they're genuine, which eventually leads to her change of heart. Think of these as stepping stones, where the ultimate change is Rebecca's complete change of heart in 180, where she loves the club that she was originally trying to destroy. These small plots across different episodes are little stepping stones, building blocks, that help her lead to that transformation. And now, a word from our sponsor. Feel the silence? Awkward, huh? These are a couple storytelling techniques that you can incorporate in your videos, and to revise it real quick, you want to use camera angles that show exactly what you want to say. For example, using a lower camera angle to show that your target is in a position of power, or a high view to show that they aren't powerful and they feel small. Make sure that you have a mix of good and bad characters, but they understand both sides so your viewers can interpret what they mean to them. Don't just use parts of the plot to be interesting and then leave it. Make sure that they build towards the change of a character so that they're connected with something important. Use side characters to test new themes and see what the audience responds to. Maybe they become a permanent character, maybe you need to make changes and remove them entirely. Don't over-edit, let silence be there, let loudness be there at the right times, at the right moments. You don't need to hyper-retention edit everything you do. Tell an engaging narrative. And most importantly, show, don't tell. Want to hear more? Let me know. I'll make more. You're awesome. See ya.